Y'all ready to get ready?
All ready to get ready.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
born ready for this shit. We got a beer. We're talking about some spooky shit. Oh, that beer smells a little interesting. We're drinking a Melvin Juice Theorem IPA.
Everyone loves juice.
Juice.
Juicy.
You know me. I just go for the cool can. And this can, it's got like this mad scientist on the front of it and like a breaker or beaker.
Yeah, you know, I like weird
exploding.
experimentation with my beer. I'm sure that'll be fine.
Yeah, that'll be all right. And if you just grow a second head, who cares?
I grew a ball sack on my chin, bro. It's not okay.
Well, at least you got half a beard to cover it up for you.
All right, so I watched a good scary movie, one that
feel
I
like we're on a
enjoyed.
roll with these scary movies you've been watching.
I've noticed, like, I like movies that try not to be too serious. Like,
Okay.
maybe they're, like, serious for a portion of it, but, like, they don't
take themselves too
well,
seriously.
they don't care. Like, effects don't have to be great to make a good film, right?
Most of the time, you can do it without any effects.
Yeah.
Just like set a creepy ambiance, build the suspension.
Yeah, but like, I'm just saying, like, sometimes a movie doesn't have to be high budget to be good. And so I started watching a movie last night called Night's End. Okay, walked into it blind with my girlfriend. We just saw it. I'm like, fuck it, let's watch it. It's about a guy who has I think it's called agoraphobia.
Afraid to leave the house.
Yeah, so he has like newspapers like on the windows, and he just like lives in his house.
Wow.
He has a YouTube channel, and basically he's just like spending what money he has and, you know, taking unemployment. Anyways, while he's doing the YouTube channel, they start to notice weird stuff happening in his apartment complex, and like people think it's haunted, and he blows up on YouTube. And then it just spirals into something fucking crazy.
No spoilers.
Yeah, you would not guess where this fucking turns at the end.
And you said it's Night's End?
Yeah. My girlfriend at the end like looked over and she apologized. She's like, "Oh, he's picked a bad movies." I'm like, I really like this one, right? Because it's not like a twist that punches you in the face like M. Night Shyamalan or whatever his name is. But like it was good. It was nice. I really enjoyed it. I wish more movies were like it.
It's been a minute since we've talked about M. Night.
It's low budget. You have to like understand you're gonna see some shitty effects, but it was almost Lovecraftian in nature, and I really liked it.
Oh, nice. Well, I have a kind of a scary story, not really, but the other night my wife and I were just watching our show, and it was over, and we were getting ready to go to bed, and she goes, "We should play with the Ouija board," and I was like, "Okay, cool," because I mean, that doesn't really bother her and stuff. I know, like we talked about it, a lot of people are so turned off by it, and so we busted it out, and nothing, it didn't move at all, and so then she's like, "Well, you guys did it with the spirit box, right?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, we did." So we got the spirit box out, dude. It was quiet. Like, nothing happened. Your house is just belligerently
You should have
haunted.
I don't think you really listened back to the episode, which is fine. But if you go to our October episode, there's like actual emotion in some of those responses. I think I was going through it pretty quick, but like someone like was crying when they answered.
Yeah, no,
and there was a lot of anger in some of the responses.
Yeah, I listened to it the other night with headphones. I cranked it up because I wanted to hear everything.
It's creepy.
But like literally every time we turn it on at your house, it's like we get quite a bit of stuff. And in my house, there was literally not even a peep. Like maybe like we kept getting like some like, and that was it. And it was so quiet. I'm like, God, Cleet's house is like the central.
Well, some bad things have happened here, according to the spirit box.
Yeah, the ghost rods.
I was working on the plumbing under my house Sunday.
Just crawling around under the
I'm not going to say what I found, but when you find an item that shouldn't be there, you just kind of question about the history of the house, right?
Did you find a dildo?
A giant pink dildo.
Sparkly one.
Yeah. It's just, I found something that was odd under the rocks, under the house, because it's like there's a manufactured part of the house added to it. Big room. Had to get under there with the rocks, and other couple weird things. There's like outlets out there, and it's really strange. Whoever built this house is weird. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, all right. So we're back to Reddit, and I know we've been doing quite a few Reddit things. Number one, it's some of our favorite things because the stories are just so...
They're getting popular,
yeah,
actually.
They're pretty popular, but it's also, just for lack of better excuses, time has not been like... It's been in short supply for us to like prepare and get everything ready, so... In the meantime, while we still ramp up for everything, Reddit's just a good place to jump into. But tonight's thread is, what is the creepiest, most inexplicable thing that you have ever seen, whether that be supernatural, demonic, haunted, aliens, or etc.
Man, we don't know what we're going to get. That is such a wide range of targets.
What do you think of the beer, though?
I love the beer. It's great.
Really good.
It's fantastic.
I'm not upset by it.
I'm drinking it out of my school glass. All right, this one is from Deleted. When I was younger, I'm talking, I still play with pots and pans from my cupboard, younger.
Wow.
We lived in a sort of townhouse in Surrey, Vancouver. My dad was away at work for the stock exchange back in the day. My mom was at home looking after me. She told me that there were 2 reasons we moved from that house. 1, my mom and dad had this coffee table, more like a side table in the living room. Every other night or so, this table would move by itself from one corner of the room to the other. My parents do not sleepwalk, and I was too young to do anything but drool in my crib. Furthermore, my dad kept finding what looked like watery footprints in our basement. Our basement had no leaks, no animals, and only boxes. Apparently, this was kosher with them until 2. My mother let me down on the kitchen floor to play with the pots and pans that was weird.
What?
As usual one day. It was sunny. The day was good, and she was doing laundry in the other rooms. She leaves me for not 2 minutes in the kitchen alone and comes back to find a giant crack in the wall and bees swarming out of it.
So what is this, Candyman?
Candyman. I was covered in them from head to toe, and she called 911 immediately. By the time the fire department arrived, the first responders, they were flying away out of the kitchen door and off of me. I wasn't stung once. I have a few more stories.
The shit.
You know, I'm going to say like the bee one is probably the not so supernatural one. I mean, maybe, I don't know. But
they were dead bees. They were ghost bees.
All right, let's do the additional story. Ghost bees.
I still hear the phantom. Bzz.
Oh my god. All right.
They're coming for me, Cleet.
All right, let's get into more information from this. This was actually a duplex in the eastern part of Surrey. However, my parents are a bit hazy on the exact location because we moved several times during my childhood. I don't know why, it's just something I remember doing. My mother said that the table in question belongs to her father's mother, and it was left to her when she died. She placed the table next to my dad's sitting chair in one room, and they would find it often placed near the window on the other side of the living room entirely, as I said before. As for the basement phenomenon, there is actually more to this. Over eggs this morning, Mom talked my ear off about this place. It obviously made her very uncomfortable living there. It was a duplex. However, nobody lived on the other side. My parents would often be woken up by voices in our living room and basement, and because of this, my dad would be sent down by my mother to the basement to check it out. I'm talking a completely bare basement with just linoleum flooring. He would not only find watery footprints, but dirt footprints on the floor leading up to the stairs, and by the time he returned to clean them up, they would be gone. She couldn't have been more serious about this. This is when the dream started. My dad is a very heavy sleeper, and he's not shaken by anything at all, really. I mean, this guy has problems waking up if I yell at him.
He just stands on the side of the bed. Wake up!
Sorry, I'm the same way, man.
Rang?
It's hard to get me out of bed. So my mother had me to look after, but they were trying for another child, my eventual sister, and she would lay awake at night with the usual worries of my mother. However, once she fell asleep, it was as if she dreamt about only the house itself, which could be attributed to normal nightmares. However, it was regarding my younger sister specifically, and how the people in the basement seemed to hate the idea of having another child. This is actually all leading up to my experience with the bees in the wall, and she believes it was the result of these dreams. I think the final thing that really did her in was the missing items in the house. My grandmother collected porcelain clowns, like tiny little figurines.
It had to be clowns, didn't it?
Right. She had given some to my mother to decorate the duplex with, and this is where I straight up admit my family has strange decor ideas all around.
I just imagine, hey, your house is looking a little bare. Do you want some of these glass clowns?
You want this full adult human-sized porcelain clown.
This one looks like Ronald McDonald. It'll be perfect on your mantelpiece.
So, she had them in a closed-door china cabinet display in the living room. These clowns would somehow disappear for days at a time, only to reappear in the kitchen, either in the spice cupboards or facing the wall away from view on our kitchen table.
You would just hear...
Jesus, no. What brought this memory is that we recently inherited all of my grandmother's clown collection, and it sits in my parents' bedroom on a delicate china cabinet on display.
How do you sleep with that shit?
I don't know, man. I mean, clowns, they don't really scare me that much, but, you know, I get it. Like, I could see why they're scary. So there's over 50 of them, and if I find any of them doing these strange things in this house, it's straight to living in a box in the backyard for me. I'd probably just try selling them on eBay.
Yeah.
But anyways, this was pretty spooky, you know?
Yeah, I think the clowns and the bees. Ghost bees.
Yeah, maybe Candyman was trying to get him. He's like, I'm sick of these goddamn kids in this house. I'm going to get them with my hook hand.
So this one comes from Space Cowboy 58. I have an odd phantom person story too. When I was 17 or 18, I remember seeing a girl about my age who got hit by a car. I was home alone and sneaking liquor from my parents' stash. It was late and snowing out, and I'm pretty sure that the driver was drunk and didn't see her. She must have assumed the guy would see her and let her cross, but he clearly didn't. Was hit by the car and must have flew a good 20 feet into the trunk of a big oak tree. Damn. I didn't actually see her get hit, so I couldn't identify the vehicle. I just looked outside because I liked the way the snow looks and saw her contorting body laying against the tree with blood soaking her light blonde hair.
Just another Tuesday, huh?
Yeah. I ran to grab my phone to call the cops and ran outside to see if she was still alive. The body was gone, but there were footprints in the snow where she had been walking, a mark in the snow where she was laying, a dent in the tree, and a smattering of blood trickling into the snow. I was fucking confused at this point, but I saw footprints leading away from the body. I must have been too far from my house for the cordless phone to work, so I had to go back inside to call the cops. I turned to my house and noticed that it was completely dark. I was a little freaked out already, but I forgot to put on a jacket, so I forced myself to go inside. I tried the lights and the power was dead. All of the other houses and streetlights had power, but it was about 1 a.m., so I didn't want to bother my neighbors. I tried the phone again, but it wouldn't work. I went to the hardwired phone, and the phone lines were dead as well. Someone flipped the breaker. Shut it down.
Now the driver's going to murder him because he thinks he's a witness. I'm kidding.
Then who wrote the story? Ghost bees.
The guy who hit everybody and murdered everyone.
It's like his confession.
Yeah.
I grabbed my jacket and a flashlight and immediately got the fuck out of my creeping house. I looked around for the girl and noticed that the tracks were leading both towards and away from where the girl was laying. Further investigation showed that there were actually 2 sets of tracks leading to the road, one set of large boot prints and one much smaller set. Someone must have come looking for her and brought her inside, but that idea didn't sit right with me. I was tired, cold, and pretty shaken, so I decided to brave my house again. I remembered a spare cell phone my parents had for emergencies, so I slowly made my way to the stairs, stopping at the bottom and turning my flashlight off. The light was casting a host of moving shadows, each one competing for my startled attention. I let my eyes adjust and climbed the creaking stairs to my parents' bedroom. I opened the drawer and heard a whoosh behind me. It was the wind belting the side of the house. I grabbed the cell phone and tried to turn it on, but it was dead. Go figure. I took it downstairs with a charger, edit. No, it's not a wall charger. It's like an emergency battery backup, about half the size of a car battery, and sat on the couch. This was a ghetto hunk of a phone, no smaller than the cordless one, and it had to be off in order to charge. I laid on the couch while waiting for it to charge. The house groaned with the wind, and small drafts seemed to seep into the living room. The next thing I remembered hearing through the breathing of the wind in the otherwise small room was a sudden, uproarious laughter and flurry of lights and colors as my eyes shot open. I had fallen asleep on the couch and the lights came back on, along with a late-night episode of The Nanny. Fuck, dude. I grabbed the cell phone and practically ran outside with my shoes half on, only to see that the marks in the snow were completely drifted over. I examined the tree and the blood was gone. I was thoroughly convinced that the event was real, but nothing remained of it. There's actually quite a bit more after this, but I don't want to overwhelm anyone with a boring wall of text. So he dreamed it. He had a dream.
Clearly.
That's super paranormal, man.
Real spooky. All right, this one is from Here's Your Hardware. I won't say it's inexplicable, but it still freaks me out. I hate it when it happens. At times when I'm stressed, I get absolutely chronic sleep paralysis. Basically where you are still dreaming but believe you're awake and your body hasn't woken up yet. So you're unable to move. You can also hallucinate. A tormentor is responsible for the temporary paralysis that they holding you down or freezing you in fear. Everyone has their own tormentors. It can be an imp or a vampire. Mine is a woman from The Grudge, Samara from The Ring, a woman in a white dress moving very erratically with long black hair covering her face. After what seems like a lifetime, you jolt back awake as your body breaks out of the paralysis. Most times you can just realize it was a dream and try to go back to sleep. It usually manifests itself in a real-world setting where I am sleeping. So I feel like I'm lying down on my bed, and the ghost woman from The Grudge will appear from the wardrobe, through the door, or at the foot of my bed, and start to make her way toward me. One time around an important exam I was having, she came up from under my bed, making that grating noise and intense eye contact the whole time. I basically thought I was frozen with fear. I couldn't move an inch. She continued really slowly making her way towards me, and about an inch from my face, I snapped out of it. I thought I got out of bed to shake myself out of it. It felt so much like I was awake, but as I moved for the door, I started to get lower and lower to the ground until I was lying on it and unable to move. Then herself emerged from under my bed again towards me, except this time I felt I was awake. It was so horrifying. I woke up just before she got me and turned on every light and strayed onto the balcony to get cold and make sure I was awake. Didn't sleep for about 2 days.
Well, damn. Do you still get your sleep paralysis stuff?
You know, it used to really scare me, but I'd get it chronically, and then I would just stop caring. I'm like, all right, here it comes. All right, Mr.
So you get 'em
Tormentor.
now, and you're just
No,
like,
they don't
yeah,
have
whatever.
them. They haven't had. Once they stopped caring, they just went away.
Oh.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll get it, but I still don't care. Like,
Isn't
all
that how
right.
shit works in normal life? You just stop caring, and it's like...
As an adult, you just become so numb to everything. You're just like,
Yeah.
all right, go ahead, start pushing on my
Whatever.
stomach, whatever you want to do. Like, I'll just start work tomorrow at 7. I don't fucking care.
No matter what you do, I'm expected tomorrow morning.
I'm already tortured in real life, bitch. Let's go.
What are you going to do? Take more taxes from me? Okay, this comes from Drooper Weird. I've seen that woman with the long black hair covering her face. Holy crap. I think it accompanied the only out-of-body experience I ever had. According to Indian tradition and folklore from around the world, when people sleep, the astral body hovers about a foot or two above the physical body. We covered that on the iceberg, though. The new astral body.
Yeah.
Every kind of body you have.
Abracadabra.
I'm not into New Age religion, crystals, or any of that other stuff, but I have a friend who claims she's had out-of-body experiences. I never gave it too much thought until one night I was asleep with my wife and 3-year-old son. Through a succession of very normal dreams, I came out the other side and had the impression that I was now in a shadowy world that existed in a strange, nebulous dimension about 10 feet above our reality. I remember calling out for help, and to my bafflement, I heard a strange, strained voice which reached me from a distance. It sounded strangled and faint. I looked down and saw my body. Every time I was yelling help, my body, drawing on only shallow breaths, was mouthing the words in an eerie puppet-like way. Now, here's where it gets weird. After I realized that my astral body, if that's what it was controlling my physical body, I looked over at my young son, whereupon he started to utter help, help, in the same hoarse, choked-off voice. I was startled because it appeared that my consciousness was projecting my will not into my own body now, but my son's. His sleepy figure, which was as corpse-like as my own body, seemed devoid of its spiritual essence, and in its absence, I appeared to be able to possess him. It shocked me. Now, at this point, I'm starting to get freaked out, and then it happens. Already struggling with disorientation and perplexity, my very presence seemed to have attracted the attention of some strange, small woman who kept trying to jump on my back.
She wants a piggyback ride.
I had the uncanny impression that she was trying to feed off me in some way I can't even begin to articulate, as if she could absorb the energy that seemed to exist in my solar plexus. She had straight black hair, and it was brushed over her face, as if to hide her features. I had the intuitive understanding that she was a denizen of the astral realm, and this guy is smoking something.
Yeah, LSD, man. It's a hell of a drug.
And that she wasn't human. She wasn't even a she. She was an it, a creature, an intelligence just as natural and just as normal as us, but from a different order of nature, and she had the capacity to absorb our energy, if given a chance. Not a religious man, I found myself praying to God to help me, and after several false attempts, I was finally absented. First sucked away from the imp and into some black abyss. I wavered back and forth between this void and the astral realm. The she-creature expressed dismay at my sudden vacillation between planes. It seemed to be as confused as I was. Then, finally, I was drawn back down into my body. I sat up, terrified, between my still sleeping wife and son. My chest heaved, my forehead was covered with sweat. To this day, I have the irrational conviction that it wasn't a dream, that I entered a dream state, yes, but that I used it to essentially leave my body and enter some strange parallel world that flows concurrently with our reality. I know this makes me sound like a nut, but I still can't shake the feeling that it was real, and that the thing was real too. I wonder what the hell it was, and why other people seem to have seen her too.
Cuckoo. Just kidding.
I'm getting a lot of dreams.
Yeah.
I fell asleep and had this crazy dream that I saw this imp that was just trying to take a piggyback ride.
He was trying to touch me.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is from Sino of Chaos. It starts with this sentence. Albino weasel ghost.
I'm hooked.
Yeah, we gotta read this
hooked.
one. Long night of gaming at the computer when I see a flash of white out of the corner of my eye. I'm in a dark and empty room with only the monitor light. I think nothing of it. Go back to gaming. Again with the whitey flash. Only I caught a longer glimpse, enough to make out a slender, weaselly form. I thought at first my roommate's ferrets escaped. I get annoyed, check for the ferrets, but make sure they're in the room and return to the computer. The white flash springs from one dark corner to the middle of the room, about 5 feet from where I'm sitting, and in that flash, I saw red eyes, furry form, and I shriek and topple myself backwards in the chair. Crumpled on the floor, all I can think is, this is how I'll die. Never saw it again, but the vivid memory of it still scares me shitless. I don't know why, but I get a weird feeling that this guy's like really just a furry, and he's like, how do I inject furries into this thread?
Yeah, I could see that. Hey man, look, you be you. To each their own. There's no shame in being a furry if that's what gets you going.
Yeah.
This one comes from Dark Tubi. I used to work at a movie theater. It was a crappy, cheap movie theater that got all the movies after they were done at the bigger, nicer theaters.
God, there's a needle in my seat again.
This one has blood on it. We always joked about a ghost that haunted the place. We would always hear whistling. You could whistle part of a song and you would hear someone whistle the rest. I shit you not. This happened. We kind of joked about it and went on with our lives. Well, one day, I was up in that projection area, and I heard someone say my name. I yelled back, "What?" No answer. I walked downstairs and asked my coworkers what they wanted. They were slammed busy at the front desk and lobby. No one had come upstairs. Fine. Could be explained, right? I'm hearing things, right? Well, here's the freakiest part. My family doesn't celebrate Christmas. That is the scariest part.
Yeah, what's wrong with your family, bro?
Like most families, okay, my family doesn't celebrate Christmas like most families, so I would always volunteer to work Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I was working the night shift on Christmas Eve alone. I was waiting for 2 or 3 people to get done watching Lord of the Rings or something so I could go home. Well, you're going to be waiting a long time. After the movie was out, I ran upstairs, stopped the projector, and ran back downstairs to clean the theater. No one was in the building at this point. Halfway through clearing the theater, I get this feeling like, wow, I shouldn't be here right now. I look up and see a man-shaped shadow in the projection booth. I ran out of the theater, turned off all the lights, and ran out the door. I turn around and see that there's a neon sign for coffee behind the snack bar that's still on. I work up some courage and run back inside to turn it off. I literally jump over the counter, turn the light off, and jump back to the door. By the time I'm out the door, I turn back around to see the light flickering back on. What the fuck? I ran back in and turned it off again. I turn to my right and see a flash of light come down the middle of the dark lobby.
That's going to be the weasel, dude.
Right? I turned, ran, and never looked back.
Fucking albino weasel. Little bastard.
Probably is.
All right. This next one is from Scarland. I was with my girlfriend and her family at a going away party for her aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, who were moving to Washington. It was like 3 p.m. on a Saturday, and the weather was pretty sweet. We live in Florida. Well, we're watching Tangled, and it had just ended. Anyways, when it ended, my girlfriend's nephew took the remote and hit a button on it, causing it to change inputs and go to static. Now, here's the creepy part. My girlfriend's niece stared at the static blankly for a few seconds and said,
There he
I shit you not, said, skin taker,
What the fuck?
in a whisper. So I guess it was more like this, skin taker. I promptly freaked the fuck out,
Call the priest.
snatched the remote from the nephew, and turned the television off as fast as humanly possible. Her niece just stared at me, who, by the way, was 3 at the time. Needless to say, this kid now creeps me the fuck out. For anyone who's wondering why Skin Taker caused me to shit my pants, here's this. It's a Candle Cove creepypasta. Here I was thinking it was bullshit. I still think it is bullshit, but I have zero explanations as to why this 3-year-old girl started saying Skin Taker over and over while staring at a static television.
Kids are super close to the veil, man. They see shit. Kids and pets.
I just had to read this because I had Jesus Christ, and I was like, he's gonna appear? Hello, my child.
Hello,
No.
my child.
Please go away, Jesus. I've had enough.
Can I tell the world what you told me? No.
The gospel has been lost on the earth, and we must bring it back. No thanks. Okay.
Okay, goodbye. This one's from Deleted. Here is my family story. I not yet born. That's what he says. We used to live in a large house near Fairfax, Virginia, in the old Civil War battlegrounds. This house was built next to a building that during the Civil War was used as a field hospital. Yeah, you're going to get some ghosts. Our house itself was built over an officer's residence. On many nights, my parents swear they saw figures walking around outside and would occasionally hear sounds in the house. Doors opening, sinks turning on, but nothing violent or disturbing.
Someone keeps flushing the goddamn toilet.
Keep having to get the plunger.
Clogging the toilet.
Ghost dookies are massive. The figures were scary, but never did any harm and would not hang around long. At this time, my sister was still a baby, and appropriately, my parents had a baby monitor. One night, my sister started to cry in her crib. While my parents were arguing who would go comfort her, they heard a sound. Thump, 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 creak. Over the monitor, you could hear the door to my sister's room open. My dad, freaking out, grabbed it and quietly moved to her room. Then he heard on the monitor, shh, and her mobile started to turn on its own, and a kindly southern voice soothed her. After she was done crying, the voice was gone, and all was silent. Dude, baby monitors are freaky as shit. Freaky.
Well, it's not the baby monitors. It's what you hear on them, right?
And see.
Why don't you just like sweet pea?
Well, it's crazy because like they have night vision on when the kid looks in the camera, their eyes are just bright white and they just sit there and stare. It's like, you look possessed.
Jesus.
The rest of the time living there, small benevolent acts were done by this gentleman ghost. My family thinks it was the old officer of the Civil War, being kindly to those who now lived there.
Except the time I heard a fart on the other end. All right.
Quit clogging the fucking toilet!
You just listen. You son of a bitch.
Ghost fart.
All right. This one is from L. Wolfo. My girlfriend suffers from pretty intense night terrors / sleep paralysis and has since she was a kid.
Just don't up to it, man. There's nothing wrong with sleep paralysis. Don't blame it on your girlfriend.
It's her fault.
It's all my girlfriend's fault.
Usually, they are about a shadow man at the foot of her bed or snakes in her room / bed. It gets to the point where she scares herself so badly, she bruises herself while dreaming. She has had some small terrors before, and I'm usually able to calm her down quickly, convince her that nothing is there, and she goes back to sleep. We recently celebrated Valentine's Day by getting a hotel room, some pizza, some candy, and beer, and relaxing the night away.
Mm-hmm.
The night goes great. They banged. All right.
Just right out with it.
And when we finally go to sleep, I am out like a light. 15 minutes after I pass out, she whispers quietly, "There's something in the room with us. I can see him. He's right there." Now, the hotel wasn't exactly the nicest, and it wasn't in the best area, but I had felt safe. I had assumed it was just another one of her night terrors. She then starts screaming that he is coming closer. So at this point, I bolt awake, and it is much, much darker in the room than it was when I went to bed. I flick the light on, and no one is there, but my girlfriend is sobbing, curled up on the bed. With my heart racing, but still unconcerned, I checked the room to calm her down. I checked everywhere, including under the bed. When I went into the bathroom, my blood went cold. The window was open about 3 inches. When I specifically remember closing it before going to bed, and neither one of us got up during the night.
Someone had upper-deckered the toilet.
You son of a bitch. I flushed, but it was too late.
Just kept flushing brown.
I didn't tell her about the window, cuddled her close, and did not sleep at all for the rest of the night. I made sure that the knife I kept in my emergency kit was within reach on the nightstand. Spooky shit. You want to pull a knife on a ghost? Is what Dole Whip said.
Stabby with a ghost.
This person wrote, "Are you going to try to donkey punch a ghost with the knife you got?"
Does he know what a donkey punch is? I don't think he knows what that means. Sir? I don't. I think you're just trying to be clever, but it's not how that works. Anyway, moving. God damn it. Moving. Idiot. Oh my god. he just heard donkey punches like, I'm going to use that with a knife.
That ghost never came back.
I bet. That's kind of a hell of a threat. I'm going to donkey punch you with this knife. Bye.
See ya. Have a good bye.
This comes from American Insurgent. As a kid, I used to hear random voices and shouts in my house when I was completely alone. I didn't tell people for a while because I didn't want to seem crazy. But once I'd mentioned it, other family members told stories of my rocking chair I had as a baby, rocking by itself at night, stopping only once someone came over the staircase to see why I was awake, only to find an empty chair. Other times I'd lose an object, the strangest case, a ski mask, for months at a time. After coming back from dinner as a family, the mask was inexplicably sitting at the doorway to my room. Everyone in my family swears they didn't put it there and had no clue where it was. You're walking in your room, there's just a ski mask on the floor.
What the hell?
Just go away, go somewhere else. Fast forward 4 years ago, and my sister ends up dreaming about our house's little friend. He said his name was Ben, so that's what we called him whenever we'd notice weird things going on. So like Boykum?
Boykum.
Remember Boykum?
Yeah, the imaginary friend.
Now, the weirdest thing to happen was when my dog would get up, look at the front door, and just growl for no reason. One day we took a picture of our staircase, and looking back at it, you can pretty clearly see a shadow of a man walking up the stairs, even though no one was there. I'll link the picture if people want later, but I'm on my phone now on a long car ride, so it may take some time.
We'll put it on the YouTube.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yay, ghosts!
This one is from Deleted. My boss and I were metal detecting on a set of trails. We had started about 30 minutes before dusk, made our way to the back of the trails, and had started returning as the last bit of waning light was disappearing into the darkness. Because it had become hard to see at this point, we were both walking with our heads down, looking at the trail directly in front of us. Curious how much further we have to walk, I look directly forward and something catches my eye. I start to yell, "What the fuck?" as my boss calls my name. Chris, what the fuck?
Chris, watch your profanity.
About 75 feet in front of us is a glowing form, levitating 5 feet off the ground in front of a tree. It literally looked like a floating ghost decoration you'd see in somebody's yard for Halloween, except it was illuminated from within. As soon as we start making noise, it floats down the trail away from us, and then shoots to the left into the forest at a rapid rate, maybe 30 miles per hour or so. I say, "What that and he butts in, "Floating illuminated blanket that just shot into the forest at 30 miles per hour?"
They're already finishing each other's sentences.
Shocked, I reply, "Yeah," as the hairs on my body stand up. At this point, I'm tingling all over my body to the degree that would put the best ecstasy I'd ever taken to shame. We hightailed it out of there, gripping our spade and shovel like we've never wanted to let go, until we were inside the truck and out of the parking lot. We've been back a couple times, trying to provoke what happened again, but have been unsuccessful. I'm still not sure what I believe it was, but it is definitely the creepiest, most inexplicable thing I've ever seen.
Well, goddamn.
That's why I don't do LSD and go metal detecting.
What? That's the only part about metal detecting I like.
Whoa. Did you see that 30 mile per hour ghost thingy?
Dude, someone just hucked their blanket out of a moving car. This is wild. This is from Kakuna Used Harden. When I was like 10, I was dragged to school with my mother for student-teacher meetings. We weren't allowed in the classes with them, so all the sorry sods that got brought there had to wait in the office. Well, in this office, there was no one really keeping an eye on us, so it turned out we just started running around the school. All the parts that we weren't allowed to go to as 10-year-olds. Oh, this was a K through 12 school, so being 10, we only knew the elementary section. So this girl committed suicide the week before in the woods by the school, and after they found her body, it kind of disappeared. Like, actually, no one knew where it was. They saw her hanging, they brought her down and did all the cop stuff, but then the body was gone. Anyway, we were running around and we were in an area where all the lights were off, and suddenly 2 girls run away from the cafeteria screaming their fucking heads off. So me and this other guy go to see what they were looking at, and my 10-year-old mind swears to God that there was a body in the dessert refrigerator. Her body. Everything was dark, but that fridge stays lighted up. I didn't sleep for like a week and refused to tell my parents what I saw. And all of us there that night, 6 of us swore that we saw it. I don't know if any of them ever told anybody, but it just wasn't brought up to anyone else. Oh, the worst part, they found her body in the next morning, but no one ever said where. I know that it probably didn't play out this way and that it was our imaginations playing games on us, but thinking back to that spooked us as shit.
Eating Jell-O out of that fridge was never the same.
It always had a moldy taste.
Weird jiggle. All right, this one is from Colds and Overcoats. When my mom was in high school, she lived in a big old farmhouse in a rural area. It was allegedly haunted by a farmhand who died in an accident 50 years earlier. My mom, her sister, and 3 of her friends decided to contact the spirit using a Ouija board and then talking to the spirit in some way once they'd contacted it. They put an entirely blank sheet of paper in the far corner of the room with a pencil, and all had both hands on the Ouija board centerpiece. After attempting to contact the spirit with little success, my aunt screamed. Despite the fact all of their hands were on the board, my aunt had a large red handprint on her arm, as if someone with large hands had hit her, and that's what she had felt. The piece of paper that had been across the room was now a few feet from where it was originally, and had a large L on it. The next day, my mom and sister went to the library to look up who the farmhand who died at the house was. His name was Lawrence. And that's why Ouija boards were banned at my parents' house, and my brothers and I were forbidden from attempting to contact the dead or rousing any ghosts. Seems like a cautionary tale.
Yeah. Don't play with Ouija boards. This comes from KWOW2. This happened to me a couple years ago, but I still remember exactly what happened. I was sleeping in my room when I heard a scratching at the door. This was normal because I sleep with my door closed and my cat loved sleeping on my bed. I got up and let her in, and just for a second thought I saw a person out of the corner of my eye. I stood there for a minute, but didn't see it again. I got back in bed and my cat started meowing. This alone was strange because she almost never makes any noise. She jumped up on my bed and tried to crawl under the covers. Understand this, that cat hated, absolutely hated, being under anything. She managed to crawl under the blankets with me and started growling. I looked under the blankets and tried to calm her down. When I looked back up, I saw a man-shaped form standing about 3 feet away from my bed. I couldn't look away, and I couldn't move. It slowly backed away, and my cat kept growling, and then I passed out. I woke up with the cat in my bed and the door to my room open.
Well, that's unsettling. All right, this one is Omega Weapon. This
Humble brag.
Like penis or something? I don't understand.
Oh, like penis?
This will get buried and definitely not talked about on a podcast, but here it goes. Many years ago, I came home late.
Is that really what it says?
No, dude.
Oh.
Many years ago, I came home late from a club one night. I was sober as I had work the next day, and I was riding the motorbike to and from. I pulled up outside my house and found my mom waiting at the door. It's a loudish bike, and it was around 3 a.m. She looked kind of not right. I figured, maybe because it was so late, she turned right and went into her bedroom. But while she was closing the door, she also went straight down the corridor into the kitchen. I thought I was seeing things. I just clearly saw her walk into the bedroom, and she was still closing the door, so I walked down the corridor into the kitchen, and there's my mom, with her back turned, looking out the window. She was kind of swaying, ever so slightly from side to side. I had this sudden burst of goose pimples and said, "Mom?" She turned around with this really creepy, frowny, toothy smile, and when our eyes met, I swear I heard thunder and collapsed.
No way.
Everything sounded like I was underwater and I couldn't move. It's like my whole body cramped. I must have been screaming because my sister runs into the kitchen. She looked all fucked up too. Like, I can't explain, just creepy. My dad comes running in. He put his hand on my forehead and said stuff I couldn't understand. Then everything was gone. I lay there really sobbing and shaking violently, man.
You're not part of a ritual, sir.
I had no idea what the fuck just happened till this day. I'm 38 now. If my mom is still in the kitchen when I visit her, I won't walk in. After that, I was kind of prone to freakish nightmares for a short while. Never happened before that night. TLDR, I saw my mom split in two, and just read it, man. That's
what
funny.
The fuck?
Because he's saying he saw his mom go into two different directions, and when he followed her into the other one of the kitchen, it wasn't really his mom.
God damn.
And now he's mental issues.
This one comes from Deleted. I was at a volunteering trip in Sudan. Stayed in a medium-sized village with a few hundred people. First night was a nice meeting period. Get to know the village. Really friendly. hanging around the fire pit where the dinner was being prepared. Kids were jumping, laughing, women and elders just cautiously quiet. The typical image of a foreigner in a Sudanese village. A few days passed with success, but the evening of the third day at the village was when things changed. I awoke, probably in the middle of the night. I can hear the fire cracking and the moon shining through my hut and bug protector. I then heard some mumbles and light talks. Curiously, I crawled out and poked my eyes through to see, towards the fire, a few men seated, arms loosely hung on the ground, whilst a man in a tribal helmet danced, holding a staff and throwing objects in the fire, creating random colorings and such. After probably 15 seconds of watching, out of the blue, the masked man looked directly at me, stared, made a loud hiss and howl, and stopped. I booked it back into the net and bed and attempted to go back to sleep. The next day, one of the English-speaking elders came up to me privately and softly said, "It is best to sleep at night." I responded the usual okay, and didn't think much of it. Went throughout the day sitting in a teacher's class, watching the men hunt, all that jazz. However, as I went along with my day, I could feel a very nervy tension around the village towards me, more than the general. That evening at dinner, the elders were separated from the majority, showing real fear and anger towards a few of the others. Things started to get heated, but cooler heads prevailed. Now for bedtime. I strangely awoke again, very unlike me, but I just simply awoke, eyes wide open, strangely felt like I never went to sleep. Hiss, hurrah, is the best way to describe the deep, dark voice I heard bellowing out from the window. Next I can describe with only the sound of skin on glass being wiped and very, very loud. I was truly petrified. Nervously, I crept out of bed, having no real idea what I was looking for and why. By the time my eyes met the fire, I felt a deep mulch in my stomach, a sharp pain of fear and confusion. I was staring at two levitating men facing the fire, hovering, arms raised, legs dangling, while the masked man, staff rooted to the ground, throwing objects onto the fire. Mumbling, growling, almost tongue-twisted, he could barely even make out sounds. I was utterly speechless. Fuck, even mentally I couldn't even think of things. I just felt darkness surrounding me, pain, anger surrounding me, eagle-eyed. I just gazed in a trance, fixed on what was occurring, when suddenly a loud crack, similar to one loud here during a storm of a tree snapping. The men immediately stopped, ragdoll, etc. Then instantaneously the masked man snapped a look right behind and directly at me. Naturally, I shot myself back to bed, praying, strangely something I never ever did, and just hoped nothing would happen to me. I felt darkness, a deep evil presence, all that night. No one ever came that night, but I felt, watched, all night long. The next morning I was politely and without any excuse asked to leave. I was thanked and asked to leave that moment. No goodbyes or anything. What was once the cheers of my arrival was eerily nothing. No children playing, not even elders staring. Nobody, just myself and the English speaker elder. Pack your belongings, it be in the car. And that was that.
That's spooky shit, man. All right, this one is from Deleted. I was driving in my hometown of Lake Luzerne in the Adirondacks of New York.
Adirondacks.
Yeah. Bigger than Vermont or than Yellowstone, Yosemite, Grand Canyons, Glacier, and Great Smoky Mountain National Parks combined. I was in the thick of it, driving down lonely, forgotten roads, where this happened, and within the next 20 miles both directions, there were no buildings or cars pulled over, or cars that I'd even passed. I saw whilst going around a bend what looked like headlights. As I drew closer, I realized they were coming from inside the woods. Two large columns of light. They were decently far in, but very bright. The shadows cast on the forest were unlike anything I'd ever seen. I had such a strange mix of emotions. I just wanted to get away. When I passed the point, most perpendicular to the road, and I did not look in my rear view. I've never felt that way before again in my life. So I don't know, some spooky lights, maybe some UFOs in the woods.
There's a whole bunch of UFOs in the woods, man.
Yeah, they'll get you. They'll get you bummed too.
Okay, this comes from What If. Mine is more of a you had to be there kind of story, but I'll post it anyway. When we were about 13, my cousin and I, being of scientific minds, really wanted to have a supernatural experience. So when we were in Mexico, staying in our grandma's house, we decided we would sleep in the room where supposedly all that creepy shit went down. Throughout the whole vacation, we would fight over the beds because there was one big bed and one fold-out bed. The big bed was obviously the most comfortable, so we decided to take turns sleeping on it. The first few days nothing happened, just your odd noise here and there, but we thought it's an old house, of course it's going to go bump in the night. We stayed there for about a month with no ghostly interference. Obviously we were disappointed. On our last week it was about 2 a.m. and we were up talking about God knows what when we heard something or someone coming down the stairs leading to our room. It sounded like when a kid jumps from step to step all the way to the bottom. We looked at each other. We were obviously both scared shitless, but we didn't want to make noise. I was scared, so I said we should both sleep in the same bed. He agreed, and when I got up to walk over to his bed, the bed shook violently. It looked like we were having a major earthquake, but it was only affecting the bed.
They're having sex.
I saw your hand gestures there, bud. The force knocked him off the bed, and we ran upstairs like little girls.
Hey, what if it wasn't an earthquake? What if it was something else?
Yeah. Needless to say, we didn't sleep in that room for the rest of the vacation.
This one is from Ens Did It. Several years ago, my mother and father's house was being remodeled. At the time of this incident, the kitchen was having its wiring done. My parents have an orchard in New Zealand, and we're in and out of the house often due to the harvest time. One afternoon after returning, the electrician mentioned to my mother that my father's father had dropped by and inquired about my father. My mother asked how he knew it was my grandfather, and was told that this little old gentleman with a bald head had walked into the kitchen and said hi, his name, Raphael, and asked if my dad was there. The electrician said he wasn't sure where he was and that the best bet was to look into the orchard. At that point, the old man said thank you and left walking around the corner. My mother calmly asked a couple more questions, his appearance to confirm who it might have been, and said nothing more to the electrician. A similar event had occurred in the garden with my friend of my mother's, who hadn't met my grandfather the summer before. My mother walked back with drinks for her and her friend remarked on how the lovely conversation that she had with Raphael. Again, similar questions were asked and similar responses were given. My mother is a skeptical person who would put most detectives to shame with her questioning and lack of assumptions. She is very intelligent and perceptive. My grandfather was born in the Lebanon and was a chestnut-colored man with a bald, shiny head, twinkling, mischievous eye, and a generous nose. He was about 5 foot nothing tall and wide as an axe handle. My grandfather had been dead for approximately 12 years at the time these incidences occurred.
And then we're going to end with this one from In Tune. My grandfather was a horrible man. He was emotionally void, always hid behind a Bible, abusive physically and sexually towards my grandmother and aunts, a real piece of shit. One day I'm doing dishes at my kitchen sink, and out of nowhere a crow flies down and lands on the branch outside the window I'm looking out of. Then a second crow landed beside the first, then a third. All 3 of them staring at me. I got really creeped out. Then they all flew away, and I watched them go, and up in the sky was the scariest cloud. It looked like the head of a sick old man, and his eyes were bulging out of his head, and coming out of his mouth was a perfect cross. The sight of this cloud was so unsettling. I grabbed my phone to snap a picture of the evil cloud. I held up my phone to snap the shot, and it rang in my hand. It was my sister calling me to tell me that our grandfather had just died.
Damn.
God damn.
A group of crows, man.
Murder of crows. Well, that wraps up this evening's episode. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
I always like our Reddit episodes. I think they're fun.
I think we're going to get to the point that where we might run out. So
No, there's so many, man. We just keep diving deeper and deeper in them because they have like 10,000 comments on like some of them.
Into the abyss.
Hell yeah.
So we are continuing to grow, and we're actually having a lot of growth, and you know, it's contributed to you, our listeners, and you know, all we can do is just thank you immensely for it. I mean, we're getting so much traction. It's just amazing to see every day how many of you are supporting us by listening and sharing and everything. So thank you from the bottom of the abyss for all of your support.
We have the YouTube/Spotify wars. We have 241 on YouTube right now and about 235 on Spotify. Whichever platform you're listening on us, please subscribe so we can see which one we're most popular on. Who will win, YouTube or Spotify? Let's